Hello everyone, welcome back, or if this is the first time on my channel, I'll just do a quick intro. My name is Ollie Sørensen and I'm a part-time writer and critic, but my main occupation is as a visual artist, mainly active in North America, Europe and Japan. So in this video, I'll be giving a talk about the relation between art and competition as an addition to an article I submitted to Esse magazine on the theme of sportification. So, what are the actual relations between art and competition? Are these relations necessary or essential? What do these relations between art and competition tell us about the world? Can we contain the sum of our social bonds strictly between hierarchical ones? And are the outcomes of these relations reduced to those of winners and losers? For example, I'm a parent and my son played soccer for many years, or European football, if you will, but in non-competitive matches with other teams, and inevitably many parents attending these matches were complaining about kids getting medals just for showing up. Not everyone should get a medal. Does this make sense? Why this kind of thinking is so ingrained in our competitive values? And similarly, within art exhibitions, audiences have come to expect that curators should explain why one work is more valuable or one artist is more important than another by ordering them according to exhibition profiles, article lengths, and award numbers. But in this discussion, I want to invite art insiders and outsiders alike to step back and seriously ask how cultural industries have entered the realm of competitive spectacles in contrast to recreational games that move towards collaborative efforts. So, Jean Piaget and countless other early childhood psychologists agree that a person's first encounter with society originates in playful games. Via the medium of play, a young person may capture the nature of social bonds, the meaning of rules, and the purpose one might fulfill in their community. But when sports are structured around competitive acts, a player's identity develops through the domination of others. I claim such behavior originates in bourgeois social formation, where competitive sports aim to prepare children for a way of life that exclusively rewards the winners and blames the losers for their misfortunes. In this context, powerful entrepreneurs are conveniently understood as the frontrunners of a meritocratic capitalist competition, and therefore they become worthy of the wealth they accumulated. Contrary to this notion, the winner-take-all ideology of contemporary sports is disconnected from much earlier physical rituals and activities. Sociologist Jean-Marie Brun spent decades exploring how games have transmuted to reflect the orders imposed by the Industrial Revolution and the hegemony of capitalism over a pacified and compliant proletariat. While games before factory work connected physical activities with the maintenance of social bonds, modern sports reinforce the framework of mechanized body, fragmented into abstract gestures like jumping higher or running faster, and other technical moves that mirror the divisions of labor. Unsurprisingly, the stopwatch was invented around the same period as the emergence of industrial labor for athletic performances to be ordered in records and the keeping and breaking of records run against the clocks of modern times. Also in step with rising imperialist tensions, competitive sports emphasized nationalistic pride as Baron Pierre de Coubertin, the founder of the modern Olympiads, was known to praise physical activities of youths, which helped them to prepare them for war. Interestingly, Olympic winners are celebrated under the same rituals as military conquerors, decorated with medals in the fanfare of national anthems. Capitalism's impression of the bonding purposes of games is well illustrated in Christian Carillon's 2005 World War I film, Joyeux Noël, portraying French, Scottish, and German soldiers climbing out of their trenches on Christmas Eve to drink and play cards and football within the no man's land between their firing ranges. And of course, later in the film, the same soldiers are charged with treason for fraternizing this way with their enemies. So, foot soldiers, athletes, and artists share many similarities. Firstly, in terms of their precarious conditions, as very few reach sustainable conditions in their respective fields. Today, sportification of art is experienced through the growing number of publications that foster vertical stratifications of artist careers, such as art reviews, annual Power 100 listing, ArtNet's many charts tabulating emerging artists, dealers, and curators, or Artifacts' massive database of over 100,000 artists ranked according to the quantity and quality of their achievements, the reputation of the institution they show in, to the performance of their work at top-tier art auctions. Creators rival each other for the prestigious Hugo Prize in the United States, the Marcel Duchamp Prize in France, the Sobey Award in Canada, or even on cable TV with the 2010 reality show Work of Art, The Next Great Artist. The overt competition at the Venice Biennale seems intimately related to the geopolitics in sports, and particularly to the Olympiads, where artists competing under the stewardship of national affiliations. The tension between nations is exacerbated in Venice through the orchestration of state pavilions, where the wealthiest countries preside from inside the Biennale's Giardini, and creators from the Global South exhibit in difficult-to-find venues at the city's periphery. However, artists have often pushed back from such competitive conditions, as Theaster Gates did when he was awarded the Artist Mundi Prize in 2015. Gates is known for his urban regeneration projects in Detroit, St. Louis, and Omaha, and for financing ambitious public arts funding programs through the sales of his own artworks. Unsurprisingly, he ended his acceptance speech for Great Britain's Art Mundi Prize by declaring, "Let's split this, motherfucker," then dividing the £40,000 reward evenly amongst himself and the 9 other contenders. The 2019 Turner Prize concluded in a similar outcome even before announcing the final winner. The 4 shortlisted artists, Lawrence Abduk Hamdan, Helen Kamek, Oscar Murillo, and Ty Shani, begged the jury to view them as a collective, coming together in the name of commonality, multiplicity, and solidarity. Likewise, Helen Martin in 2016 shared both her £30,000 Hepworth Prize and her £25,000 Turner Prize, both the wins with fellow nominees, noting there should never be a hierarchy presented in the cultural sector which said, "I privilege this thing over another." Unlike this relative openness for institutional critique in art circles, sporting organizations rarely tolerate dissent from their athletes or fans. Rule 51 on the Charter of the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, clearly prohibits the display of any demonstration of political, religious, or racial propaganda in any Olympic site. Of the few political acts that have occurred within the Olympiads, all were met with severe repercussions. Most infamously, Tommy Smith and John Carlos raised their gloved fist for Black Power on the podium of the 200-meter medal ceremonies of Mexico City in 1968, which resulted in their lifetime ban from future competition. Also, judging by the vitriolic reaction towards NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick, kneeling during the U.S. national anthem in protest of police brutality, sporting industries are still today as fiercely intolerant of any militant activism. The link between sport and competition, overshadowing all other social function, has been naturalized through decades of campaigning and most strongly channeled as cultural propaganda. Hitler's Nazi projections of racist ideologies during the 1936 Berlin Games were echoed in the sculptures on display in the surrounding Olympic Park, in monumental Aryan figures like discus throwers by Karl Albacher and Leni Riefenstahl's 1935 film Triumph of the Will. But in hindsight, the arrogant cultural postures in Albacher's and Riefenstahl's work are not so different from Michael Phelps posing in recent Speedo ads shot under dramatic lights and music to present him as the ideal realization of physical form. Former pro footballer Jules Boykov challenges the current ideologies put forward by sports industries in his 2014 book Power Games to stop them from being interpreted as universal values. The modern Olympiads have become a predominant expression of today's globally planned economy. Cities and national governments view such events mainly as public relations tools to gain publicity, increase tourism, and broker exclusive media broadcasting deals. But the payback of hosting international competitions is never certain, often plunging entire cities in chaos, as witnessed in Rio, where the building works of the 2016 Games displaced over 77,000 people, and the $14 billion budget was only afforded through massive cuts in anti-poverty programs. While huge amounts are spent on celebrating the athletic skills of a few elite players, the passive spectators watching sports are often deprived of the most basic public access to exercise. But also, the athletes themselves are really not that healthy. From the earliest Olympic Games starting in 1896, in addition to the strains of overtraining, the pressures to continually break records from previous games have forced athletes to engage in doping, absorbing cocktails of strychnine, steroid, anabolics, EPO, blood transfusion, and other substances provided by their own national team's medical staff. Prominent Chinese artist Ai Weiwei, who designed the National Stadium for the 2008 Beijing Olympics with the Swiss architectural firm Herzog and de Meuron, they lamented China's disparity between the 51 gold medals collected that year and by China and the country's abysmal health standards. While the IOC celebrates the virtues of healthy athletic bodies, it simultaneously accepts exclusive advertising deals from junk food megacorporations like McDonald's and Coca-Cola, prompting a worldwide escalation in cases of obesity, heart disease, and diabetes. Art institutions also entertain problematic ties with their sponsors, yet artists have proved much more successful at coming together to refuse such relations. After years of civil action, the art collective Liberate Tate was able to end British Petroleum's long-standing sponsorship of Tate Museums in the UK by denouncing the Fossil Fuel Corporation as a toxic brand. In this process, Liberate Tate went above and beyond the use of conventional protests with placards to make their point and extend their artistic skills onto the creation of unsanctioned performances in the Tate Museums. With the protest entitled Timepiece, the group took over Tate Modern's Turbine Hall, armed only with charcoal sticks, to cover the concrete walkways with social commentaries for an uninterrupted 24-hour period. They occupied the venue past its closing time and even built a compost toilet inside their makeshift campsite. The patchwork of graffiti eventually covered the entire horizontal plane of the museum ground floor, translating into a flat, non-hierarchical expression of dissent towards BP. The previous year, the same group staged another protest called Birthmark, a tattoo protest in a 1940s gallery of Tate Britain, a room dedicated to artworks produced around the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Here, 35 activists etched a number on their skin representing the atmosphere's particle concentration of CO2 in the year that they were born. One spokesperson said, "This makes a statement about the stain that oil has on Tate, on our culture and our society and our economics more broadly." And finally, at the end of 2016, the good news came after a long ethics review that the Tate Museum Group would end their sponsorship contract with BP. Of course, Tate denied that the protest made any difference in the decision, but I would wager that, yeah, it did. Instead of blindly competing against each other, the artists of Liberate Tate have banded together against a common adversary, and their struggle sparked a need for cooperation, causing powerful change that corporations such as the Tate Museum Groups don't like to admit to. At this point, it seems evident that if artists showed exclusively within corporate-sponsored contests, not many artists challenging the status quo would be exhibited at all. According to Ellen Mara de Wachter, artists assembling in collectives spontaneously deter from the dividing behaviors in sport. In her book Co-Art, Artists on Collective Collaboration, she claims collectives have always been linked with a left-wing outlook when she said, under the American capitalist model, the individual genius artist became a brand, and there was a great deal of suspicion towards collective work. One of the first modern art groups to transform collaborations into political acts, Fluxus, included eminent members such as John Cage, Yoko Ono, and Namjoon Paik, who nevertheless downplayed their individual affluence. Through a series of radical happenings, Fluxus was able to reverse our expectations of the artist as heroic figure, fetishized by the art market. Today, similar collectives appear increasingly active in and outside of official art programs, and this is also true of curators like Ruang Rupa. The 10-member group from Jakarta are taking on the artistic direction of Documenter 15 in 2022 under the theme of Lambang, an Indonesian word designating rice barns, where harvests are collectively stored and directly managed by local communities. In light of these case studies, it would actually seem preferable to support an artification of sports instead of a sportification of art. The previous examples demonstrate that such models of competition are not based on universal human behaviors, but on contingent and historically conditioned economic standards. Instead of refusing alternative forms of self-realization as non-intuitive or against common sense, today's existing power structures, businesses, institutions should come to terms with the emergent reality that climate change and global pandemics and other upcoming challenges to human survival are impossible to resolve under individualistic means. Such vastly complex existential threats demand a basic maintenance of social bonds of trust and solidarity in opposition to warmongering and demands collaborative teamwork developed through creative expression and playful games. So, in conclusion, I say yes, art, sports, and life do imitate each other, and definitely from now on, everyone should get a medal just for showing up. So yeah, that's my video for today. Thanks for watching it until the end. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and check out my other stuff on this channel and subscribe to keep in touch with my new uploads coming up. And until then, bye bye. Take care.